Three shots, 4 par, I just do 2, 1 putt, par 4, birdie, woohoo, new driver, info, replace, M2, par 5, fairway, what you fin do? Think I'll try to get on into, start right,
good morning, Barry, Copetown Woods. Great to have you, Mac. Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. It's such a staple. Every time I open up my IG each morning, it's like the first thing I get into work, usually about 6:30, and I'll be popping in there before I start my shift or something like that. And it's always Barry Copetown Woods with a nice update. I love it. So yeah, this is Barry Copetown Woods, owner, general manager. Your family's, your family owns the course. You're an amateur meteorologist, I see as well. So I've been connecting with you for a little while now.
Are there professional ones?
No, no. It's like one of those jobs, right? You only have to be right so many times, and
exactly.
And you're right more often than not, from what I can tell. So, if you're thinking about going out and playing Copetown Woods, have a look at you guys on Instagram. What Barry has suggested if you think it might rain. Although the day that I got out there this summer, it did rain. It was a torrential downpour, but we still had a great time. I was out with Bryce, who's typically on the pod with us here, and we had a blast. We had a lot of fun. But I figured I would just start off, mention a couple things about the course. Par 72, we played the tip, so it's just shy 7,000 yards. It is every inch of that. It plays quite long, and it's tricky. 35 on the front, 37 on the back, with 3 par 5s, I think, on the back, right?
Yep, that's right.
Right. Yeah, it starts off with one, and then you hit that almost 250-yard par 3 right next, which my cousins Bryce and Blake were hitting 5 irons into. It's uphill a little bit, and I'm trying to roast the 3-wood there, but yeah, and it's home to some of the best practice facilities I've ever played. So I had a great time when I was there. Looking forward to getting back on a bit of a drier day. And just a quick little story: I lost and found my wedding ring on the practice facilities. So there was some good karma on that day. Not so much on the course, but afterwards when I found the ring. So
nice.
Barry, thanks for hopping on. Quick little intro, but maybe you can tell us about yourself, the fourth family. I know you guys have a great background and you've been in it for almost 20 years now at the golf course. So how are things going? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so things are real good. Yeah, we're now in our in our 19th year. I guess next year will be our 20th. We opened 2003. Prior to this being a golf course, my dad was a broccoli farmer. So he specialized in broccoli. He was always a farmer. In the early 80s, when I was just a little kid, he wanted to start growing enough broccoli to be able to sell to the grocery stores instead of having to, drive to the market in Toronto. He wanted to be able to sell enough, he had to basically create enough volume to be able to sell to the grocery stores. So he specialized in broccoli. At that point, I think I was 6 years old. I had no idea what that meant or what, but looking back now,
I mean,
it was
smelly
a pretty
vegetable you wanted nothing to do
yeah.
with.
And to make matters even worse, this is kind of a little known fact if you haven't really been here, and it's not quite as obvious and apparent anymore on our menu, but I had 4 older sisters. I have 4 older sisters. And I was the youngest, only boy. And when he started selling to the grocery stores, he needed to have a product name for it. So similar to what you would see all the time, with romaine and different things like that, Andy Boy in the grocery stores, I became the name of the broccoli. So it was Barry Brand Broccoli. So it was like that up until he sold the farm 7 years ago. So it was I'm still waiting for my royalty check, but I guess building a golf course is a pretty decent I guess offset of that. But
free golf for life, right? Free golf for life is the royalty.
Absolutely. So he's so we kind of, I guess, getting into the mid 90s, he started really seeing having problems with growing broccoli on this kind of specific piece of land that we're sitting on, and kind of more specifically where I'm sitting right now in the clubhouse, where it's kind of up on a higher knoll of the property, very sandy property, very sandy soil on this side of the road. So we're opposite side of the road where our main farm was, where I grew up. So I remember growing up working on the farm and harvesting the broccoli on this side of the road, where it was really, you could have some that were, an inch high, some that were full grown, just really, sporadic growth. And so as opposed to selling the land or trying to figure out what else, he essentially tried to figure out what else he could do with the land. It was at that time he had just started golfing. So he never played golf in his life, He was right around 50 and basically decided, he was late 40s and decided to say, well, what about a golf course? I happened to be in sport management at the time at Durham College in Oshawa. I had no interest in farming, and he was very aware of that. And so I remember I believe I was in my second year, and he called me and said, hey, what are your thoughts about this? Would you be interested? And obviously, that was a resounding yes. And so that's kind of when the process started. That was like 97, maybe 97, 98. And then it was, that started the process of zoning change and all of the steps that are required to be able to get that approval to be able to build a golf course. And that approval finally didn't come until essentially the winter of 2001, heading into the winter of 2001. The first dozer was on the ground April 1st, 2002, and we opened the doors with a fully built clubhouse and everything June 2nd, 2003. So 14 months from broccoli farm, essentially, coming out of that spring, that first dozer was here. 14 months to build everything and get it open. And we could have potentially done a soft opening in the fall. I mean, everything was seeded by September. We were out playing it, late October. The first person to actually ever play the golf course was Mo Norman, who drove up and pulled in the driveway, and we had no idea who he was. I had no clue who he was at the time. Mo ended up being here like 3-4 days a week for the first 2 years we were open, and then unfortunately passed away in the fall of 2004. But I was one of the lucky ones to be able to get to know him and somebody that he was comfortable with. So that's just kind of a cool side story.
Yeah, what a great person to get to play, like even just to be able to tell that story, right? So
yeah, no, super cool.
It sounds like any normal construction project where the paperwork takes a little bit longer than the actual course took to build, right? But yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by that. So 14 months to build the course, everything was done. You guys had like I've played there a little bit. You have a couple water features, not features, but a couple water holes. I guess it would be, well, no, like 4 or 5, I guess. Were they all on the course already, or are they man-made?
A little bit of both. So there were some where the 8th hole, short par 4, we've got a pond in front of it. That one pond is actually part of like a 5 little kind of mini pond, wetland environmental area. That used to be one huge pond. That was the main irrigation. That's where we would draw everything from for the irrigation for the farm. So that was kind of altered. And then the one between 2 and 18 and the one between 10, 11, there was one there. Those were kind of changed, modified to make into 2. And then our main irrigation pond on 13, that was there as well. And it was, again, kind of a main source of water for us for the farm. But then it was made bigger before we opened, and I think it's been made bigger twice since we've opened. We don't rely on we don't have a water source. We don't have a natural spring that we pull from. We rely strictly on runoff and winter thaw. So as much surface area as we can have to be able to gather and capture that water, that will help us on it. Certainly wouldn't have made a difference. We could have had a bucket out there for this year that we would have to draw irrigation water from, and we wouldn't have needed it. But last year was a great example where you could almost walk on the bottom of it last year. It was so dry. And then this year, polar opposite. It's been a gong show of a year for rain. But a very interesting process of, being on the ground and being there literally every day of the building process and watching these things transform, of watching this one huge irrigation pond, get dammed up and, half drained and built into, 5 smaller ponds, and really, really neat. And, I've said this to many people that I wish I was today years old when we were doing that process, when we were building the golf course. None of us, myself, my dad, we were not involved in golf courses, in the golf industry at all before. And so it was all new to me. And I was, at the time, like 21, 22 years old, and I had no idea.
Were you on site, Barry, when they were building the course, like all the architectures there?
Yeah. So at the time I was managing a privately owned sports facility up in Cambridge, actually, and was living at home still. So every day I'd come home, knowing that I was going to be, my time would be up there soon, but every day I'd come home and would go out and kind of walk the course and see what they'd done, and, what different holes they had started shaping and roughing in. And then August of 2002. That's when I made my kind of full-time, made Copetown Woods was my full-time employment. So I worked outside with the superintendent at the time to help, kind of with the construction company that we had build the golf course. They laid in, most of the irrigation runs and drainage and all that kind of stuff. But there were, kind of little things here and there that I helped the superintendent with, and just kind of got a feel for what the hell it was, because again, I had no idea. I mean, if I told, people listening now that know me would probably, question that I actually got my hands dirty. But it was, so I did that until essentially, I guess, November. And then at that point moved inside. It was right around that December was the time that we broke ground for the clubhouse. So we didn't have an office, worked out of our farm office across the road, kind of at our main operation there. And just kind of started pulling the pieces together for scorecards and all this, everything that you can think of. And, I was fortunate enough to have a couple people that I got to know that were, really open to assisting and helping, and some different golf pros. And at the time, Mike Turner, who he's now a senior exec with Golf North, who manages dozens of golf courses. He was the head pro at the time at Whistlebear in Cambridge, and so I kind of knocked on his door, and he was super open. And Tom Vanderlip, who he's down at Niagara National now, but Tommy was a guy that was local. He worked at Heron Point, Lancaster, and at the time, kind of, I don't even know when Copper Creek opened, but he ended up opening Copper Creek. And so him and I, we've always, stayed in touch. But he was just kind of somebody that helped me out as somebody with zero experience coming in. And, one funny story is when I was first starting, I came from, managing the sports facility. We had, budgets, and we had to hit this and that and forecasting. And I said to my dad, okay, so what are we doing? Like, who's going to set a budget for us? Because I don't know the first of, what we're going to sell in the golf shop, how many rounds of golf we're going to do, this, that, and the other. And he looked at me straight faced and he said, I've run my business for 30 years without a budget, and I'm not about to start. If the sun's out, the parking lot better be full. If it's piss and rain, you can't expect to make a whole lot of money. And so it was, that was my first, foray into what kind of how we operate. We still operate like that to this day.
I was just gonna say, no wonder there was such a difficulty understanding the logic of not allowing people to play outside when we were going through a pandemic, and allowing people outside to safely exercise and whatnot. So I was able to get to the course a couple times. We went to one of the pop-up picnics, which was really cool, just being able to walk the course. We had a great time, and one of the things that it's a food, I guess, idea, but was the broccoli salad. So if you're at the course, you got to go by and have the broccoli salad. Clearly, you guys know what you're doing with that.
It's a staple, absolutely.
Yeah, and it is magnificent. I wanted to ask you about the clubhouse a little bit. So I know your dad's still on the course, like he still lives in the area of the course.
Yep.
And the clubhouse itself, so it looks like it was built 150 years ago, right? Like it's that old kind of colonial style. Like, was there an idea for how you wanted it to look? It's extremely unique. I'm gonna grab a couple photos and I'll pop them up if anybody's listening over on YouTube. But this is it's one of the nicer clubhouses in all of golf, right? So what was the idea with it? You guys have an amazing patio now for anybody who wants to go check it out in the summer. Was there an idea to build it that way?
Yeah, at the for the couple of years leading into the construction of the golf course, my parents, they drove down the East Coast and went through the Carolinas and Georgia, and drove in and out of hundreds of golf courses. If it was a real nice clubhouse that they wanted to get a closer look at, they'd get out and go take some pictures and do whatever.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the we wanted something that was that wouldn't look at a place in this area. So obviously kind of Victorian style, colonial, kind of plantation-esque. It's kind of built on farmland, so we wanted it to kind of have that feel to it. The board and batten siding on it, again, kind of a little bit rustic, and certainly not nothing that's modern. But one thing that we did say to the architect when we were designing the clubhouse, I do remember this, is that we didn't want anything we don't want some big monstrosity. We don't want it to be something massive that's going to have so much empty space all the time. Our banquet hall, was built essentially to house a full shotgun tournament. So 144 plus some volunteers and staff and all that stuff. So, from a wedding perspective, we can do 180 comfortably in here. And weddings wasn't even really anything that we had thought of, like that wasn't on our radar to kind of even think about. And so it's turned into that now, and it's turned into a pretty big part of our business. And but so the entire upper, the I guess if you look at the photos of the clubhouse, the upper windows of it, those are all just dummy windows. They're all fake. There's nothing upstairs at all. You got the main floor, and then below the main portion of the clubhouse is where all of our golf carts are stored. So it is like, you could eat off the floor down there. It's something that, I grew up with working in the, on the farm every day. By 6 o'clock, we're done work. The barns are swept. They're, clean as you could ever imagine. So when you start your shift the next day, when everybody goes into the barn at 5:45 the next morning, everything is clean. Your workspace is ready to go. So that's carried on into here and continues to, we train 14, 15-year-old kids to be able to understand this, which isn't the easiest all the time, especially in this day and age. And, but it's a very well-used space, every part of the clubhouse. The nice thing about the board and batten and the design of it is we've done, I'm going to say 4 or 5 additions to the clubhouse on either end, and you would have no idea. It blends it. You could put one. We've done it before where we've added 15 feet on, or added 20 feet on, or added 40 feet on, and unless you really, you may like actually be out on the golf course and you'd look at it and be like, is that new? Is that different?
Yeah.
You have no idea. So it's been great. And then the addition of the patio last year. Once COVID hit, Alcohol and Gaming Commission gave restaurants and bars the ability to kind of open up their space without worrying about getting an additional license for the square footage. And we didn't really have a big patio. We had a small kind of covered verandas, which now has turned into another couple thousand square feet of patio space that kind of was spurred on by my experience the 7 years that I left the course, and we maybe get into that, but of my experience in kind of managing Canadian Opens and for RBC. And anytime, if ever anybody's been to the Canadian Open, whether it's at Glen Abbey or Hamilton or wherever it may have been, there's always a big, huge temporary patio that's built off the clubhouse for that week to be able to house all the guests. And so, I said to my dad, I said, we can do that. I can get the company that can, to come in that's done that. They came in, they looked at it, they said, okay, for this, space you're talking, it would be this much money. And, we can probably do it and then, start it in a couple weeks. They didn't get to the parking lot before he looked at me and he said, we can do this permanent for cheaper and faster. So the next, I'm going to say 2 days later, the sod was stripped. The boxwoods along the edge of the veranda were pulled out. Our turf crew, our superintendent, his team, they prepped it. They formed it. We brought the stone in. They put the stone in, and we had a concrete guy come in. It was essentially 7 days later, patio tables and chairs were on it. We're sitting on it, and we've now got this, 80 by 40 addition to our patio, which is incredible and has served us extremely well the last 2 years.
Yeah, I've been on it. Again, it wasn't the nicest day, but it kind of cleared up when we were done golfing and we sat for lunch. And I am kind of a lobster roll connoisseur, so I don't know your chef's name. I know you've posted a couple times.
Chef John.
Chef John. So he does. I was there with the chef out in Bowmanville. He has the top ranked restaurant out here in Clarington, and he said the food was great. It was amazing. So I had a lobster roll, and I have had the best lobster roll in Canada, and that one was up there. It was pretty good. Shout out
only fresh lobsters. So those things come in. They show up. They show up alive, and then it sucked for a lot of people. Getting close to the end of the summer, the price of lobster went crazy high. Yeah. And so he ended up taking them off the menu. So there wasn't a $40 appetizer on the menu. And I'm not a lobster guy. I'm not a seafood guy. So I have no idea. I'm taking your word for it and everybody else's word for it. But there were so many people that were so mad that we didn't have lobster rolls. And a lot of them said they wouldn't have cared what the price was.
Yeah, I can tell you. I've had what I believe to be the best lobster roll in Canada at the Lobster Barn in Victoria, Prince Edward Island, and I'm actually wearing a Prince Edward Island sweater right now. So I can say that it was up there. I have like a whole list of when I was down east, kind of tracking them. I ate way too much, but yeah, the food was amazing. We had a great time there. Wanted to ask you before we move on, like you mentioned some of the RBC stuff, working, in sports management. Before we move on, I wanted to touch on a couple more things with the course. Any other amenities other than the weddings? Like there is the practice facilities. So anybody who's out there, I suggest you go a few minutes early, check out the practice facilities because it's like a top end range that you would ever go to. And why fully public? If you could touch on that a little bit before we move on.
So that's another real easy one, and that was a conversation back in 2002 when I was sitting with my dad and we were talking about a bunch of things, and I said, okay, so I knew we wouldn't go fully private, but I said to him, what's your thought? Semi-private, public? What are we going to do? And again, straight faced said to me, I've run my business for 30 years with nobody telling me what to do, and I'm not about to start. And so
sounds like a farmer, eh? Like gets the patio,
sounds like a farmer.
Gets the patio done in a week.
Through and through.
Everything in the basement's clean every morning. I like it.
If there is something that we're going to do here, we're going to do it. If it's a good idea, we're going to do it now, and we're going to do it right. He gets pissed if if we order a box of paper and it's the wrong paper that we have to send back, and there's a $11 charge on it, but we'll drop 10 grand on the patio in a week to make it right. It's something that's going to last. It's capital. It's making the overall experience better. And we know there's going to be a return on it. And that's the nice thing is, for me sitting here now is certainly wasn't, I didn't have the free reign that I, back then that I do now, but now I know that if it's going to make us money or it's going to make somebody's job more efficient, we'll spend the money on it every day of the week.
It's a proper investment, right? That's
exactly
your guest. When we went there, we felt like I saw somebody post the other day, like kind of the Canadian Magnolia Lane, right? So kind of driving up, like as soon as you enter the course, you sort of go down. I think it's a concession road, and then you see, a couple nice houses and stuff as you approach. You turn down, and then it's sort of blank for a minute, and then all of a sudden you see the first. I guess what would be the first green, the second, and the 9th tee block.
Yep.
And you kind of start driving up towards the course, and then the clubhouse kind of pokes out, right? And it's you got to just go. You got to just go check it out. For us out here on the east end, if anybody's listening out here, kind of where I am in Clarington and whatnot, it's about a little over an hour and a half, but it's definitely worth the drive going to check it out. Pick a date. Message Barry on Copetown Woods, and he'll tell you if it's gonna be a nice day or not. Because you gave us a heads up, but it's like golfing on a Saturday right now. Bryce was down from Michigan. You only get so many opportunities, right? So we just said, okay, well we got to go. We're not gonna find a tee time anywhere else now, anyway. So we went out, made the best of it. It was a tough day for. My game kind of fitted okay. Like I hit the ball a little bit longer than the average person, sometimes straighter. So luckily on that day it was straight, and I was kind of going. I don't know. When you drove by though, you saw me in that fairway bunker on like number 14 or something.
14, yeah.
Yeah. So I was a little trapped there, but for Bryce it was tough because he's an extremely long hitter that will run through a lot of fairways and whatnot, and we all agreed. Blake included, and my friend Chef Mike, that's some of the most punishing rough that we've played. It's the most punishing rough that I've played. When you were in it, the ball was gone and it was deep, and it was a nice challenge. I really liked it. It wasn't unfair. It wasn't, it was a really, really nice challenge. We liked it. And like I was telling you, I think Blake was, I'm pretty sure he's a plus handicapper. I think he was +7 on the front, and then he went -5 on the back, I think. So it's a very, very interesting round to watch, but we had a good time. But as soon as you left the fairway, it was an adventure getting back. Like I learned probably on the 4th hole that if you're over 150 yards out, you're kind of advancing the ball in that kind of weather. So it was a unique challenge. I loved it. But yeah, sorry.
It thinned out throughout the year. It was the spring was all year. We've had really, really good grass growing weather, which is, golf course has been in great condition. And yeah, I mean, the rough, it was, cut consistently at the same height. It was just, it would just nestle its way, kind of get down in there. And yeah, it was, we had ladies that essentially wanted like the rough to be shaved down, because they couldn't get the ball out. And it's like, yeah, sorry. I mean, it's healthy.
It's part of the challenge of the
healthy.
game, and the grass.
Yep.
I guess that's a good way to put it. Like the grass itself on the course was healthier than, I get that. I was lucky enough to play Black Bear last weekend, which is close by me here. It's always kind of one of the perennial top 5-10 courses, like condition courses in the country. Copetown Woods was right there, and like a friend of mine, Anthony, played there recently. Said the same thing. Like the condition is top notch. It was such a treat to play, and it wasn't just the rough. Like it was the fairways, the greens. The greens were like immaculate, which was amazing. But yeah. So sorry, I'll go back to the fully public question because I like the idea that most courses that you go to are semi-private or whatever it may be, and then you have just the public idea, and then obviously you have private. So is there a benefit to a course owner like yourself just having it listed as a public course? Can that do anything like for the value? Will it change if you start adding members? What's the idea? Will you ever consider that in the future going semi-private?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there really has ever been any thought of that, to be honest. I think,
Right.
What we do offer is packages where people could go in together as a group, get up to a larger package. We essentially, if you get to 50 rounds or more, if you pre-purchase those, you save 20% off the regular green fee rate. So you're netting your weekday round down to $47. Our rack rates are highest rates we go here Monday to Friday 59, and Saturday, Sunday, and holidays 69. So netting those down and 20%, you're looking at 47 and 58, something along those lines. And so for people to go in fully transferable packages, so you can buy them for your company, give them out to clients. You can bring your friends and your spouse and whoever you want. So we've got a pretty solid group of people that continually purchase those year after year and consider this their home club. For lack of a better term, without having members, they don't have a locker with their name on it, and they don't get to keep their clubs here, but this is where they would call home and play here multiple times a week. So we do have that, that feeling. It's not different people playing every day. That said, I mean, we do get, it's crazy how many new people continue to come out here that have never been here before. Getting into even, right now we're booking tee times, and you call to book a time. We take your phone number, which essentially acts as your account number. So the next time you call, we've got your information, your email address. So you get email confirmations for your tee time. People call and we ask for their phone number, and we're constantly putting new names into our system. And it's like the whole thing, it's snowballed. And I mean, obviously COVID has been terrible for so many businesses and industries. Golf courses cannot, don't fall into that category. We've certainly, benefited from it. I don't think there's really been a lot of places that have been greedy about it, and taken advantage of it from a negative standpoint, taking advantage of it in terms of, trying to lock in more loyal people and showcase what we've got and create that, those raving fans. And we've certainly created a ton of them.
Well, yeah, like I talked to a couple of friends, like, I said Sammy was out there, and he's been on the pod in the past with me chatting before, and like he said he loved it. We were going to try and come out. Like it's a little bit of a drive, but trying to get back out for me is kind of high priority because of the time we got to play in the condition and whatnot. And I have no affiliation to any club this year. Like we just had a baby, so I'm not playing as many rounds as I'd like to. But it's a $100 plus club. Like I can confidently say that. Like you go to any other places around public courses, like it would be a lot more money. So I don't know if that's a proper thing to say, but it's got to be. I think you guys are on the best value list, and that's for good reason. And I've been able to play quite a few of the top public courses in Ontario this year, and I would suggest that it's up there as well. And anybody that can kind of get out and check it out. I liked it. Almost lost my wedding ring. Like I said, was terrified that I did, but we found it, a black ring on kind of the black sanded driving range almost, right? So it was a good day. It turned out to be a good day. Could have been not the best drive home, but
pretty much say that Copetown Woods saved your marriage.
Pretty much. I was like I'm talking to the guys, and they're like, oh, it's probably in the truck, like back home, because we we ended up taking one of the other trucks. They're like, oh, it's probably in your truck, but I have the same routine, right? I go like this, take off my watch, pull off my ring all at one. Now I have silicone rings, as you can tell, for a reason. But
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I know it's not there. And my friend Chef, he's got a tattoo. Like, he's married. He's got his wedding ring tattooed on. He's like, oh, you should just do that. You'll never lose it again. And so I go and walk to the range. He comes with me, and we're kind of walking around a little bit. And I finally like realized or come to the realization that the ring is gone, and I'm not gonna find it. And I'm like, let's just go, man. It's fine. We're getting poured on. I turn around and I look down at my foot, and it's like literally right in front of my foot. And I just thought, no way. And I went back, and I was all like happy. I go back, and like I think I ordered another beer at that point.
Absolutely. Nice.
And our server was like genuinely thrilled that I found the ring. It was pretty great. She made a connection with us based on that. So what a cool experience, cool story. Could have been I don't know. Could have been saying, damn, Copetown Woods, they stole my wedding ring, but no, it was a good time. But wanted to ask you, Barry, as a course owner, we've been able to chat with a couple courses now in the past, and I'm kind of curious what, like, you've had such a background of kind of being a farmer, not wanting to be a farmer, kind of being in sports management and whatnot. Now you're working at one of the nicer public courses in Ontario. What's a day in the life like for you? Like, I know you're getting up really early. Can you kind of explain what the day would be like for yourself?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's not the most exciting, I guess, and not the most I don't know that people would be lining up to do it, but yeah, I like to be here first. I like to open the golf course and kind of just be here to kind of get the day started. I hate it when I'm not here first, but if I show up, if I roll in at 8 o'clock, it's like I've missed half the day. So
Right.
I'm typically will kind of make this a day in the life of midsummer. So our first tee times are in midsummer, 6 o'clock, 7 days a week. Staff is scheduled 30 minutes prior to that. So we'd have a golf shop, back shop, and a front of house food and beverage staff to get the coffee going. And so I would typically show up 20 minutes before then. I live 10 minutes away, so I'm up at 4:15. Leave the house just before 5. Get in here. We the first thing I always do when I come in, open a couple doors, kind of work my way through, unlock certain things. And then my first thing that I do most of the time is make coffee.
Of course.
You wake up at 4:15, 6 or 7 days a week. That becomes a pretty important part of your life. And so I'm here first, get everything unlocked, lights on, everything ready to go. And then the staff roll in, and it's kind of just kind of pull the tee sheet up, see kind of what you've got. Oftentimes I'm doing that the night before too. If I'm just sitting down, at home at, before bedtime, which is sometimes 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I was going to say,
other thing
6:30
you have to do when you're up that early.
Yeah.
You kind of pull the tee sheet up and just kind of see what the day brings. There's been no surprises, this year and this summer and last summer, where every day we're sold out every day. So it's, it's not like there's, I'm looking at gaps on the tee sheet, but it's looking at names on the sheet. It's looking at, who's coming in. Okay, who do I know? Who, whether I know them or, I recognize the name, whether that's a good thing, if it's, somebody coming in that plays here all the time, or it's somebody coming in that, could help in, if it's a media guy or whoever, that I may be able to, okay, hey, there's somebody I can, pull to do some funny, something stupid on social and get a little extra play out of it.
Like
or
James
if it's somebody
Duthie,
that
like Duthie.
exactly, yeah. So it's it's just kind of looking at that, and then really, I mean, then the day kind of starts, and it kind of turns a little bit into Groundhog Day, at some points, with it being so busy. My office sits kind of right within the pro shop, and so my office door is open, and because I've put myself out there as the face of Copetown Woods, and I'm not shy. A lot of times there's a lot of, hey, morning Barry, how you doing? And it's a lot of people I know, some people I have no idea, some people they're poking their head in and they're like, Barry, Copetown Woods, and they're just they're doing that same thing that that how you introed me, which is good because it shows the engagement that we've got, and that, and how excited and happy people are to be here, and which is great. I mean, I always tell my staff, people are coming to play golf who are either leaving work or they're leaving home and leaving all the, their honeydew list or their, the things that they've got to do at home. They're leaving that all there. And no matter if they're coming here or any other golf course, golfers are always excited because they always think they're going to shoot their best round too.
Yeah, I know.
And then they go 3 off the tee on the first hole, and then shit rolls downhill from there. But it's it's just it's a lot of that. We're pretty lean on our staff, and not because of it's been hard to find, but that's one of the ways that that we manage our business is making sure that we don't have people standing around. We don't. You do go into some places that have 3 or 4 people in the golf shop, and it's like, what the hell what do you do? Like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what they do. We have one person in the shop, and we may have one backup depending on, what the day looks like. But I'm answering phone calls if they're busy checking people in. I'm answering calls, booking tee times, doing all that kind of stuff. And then at the same time, I'm up walking down, making sure everything's good on the, on the F&B side. And, whether that's a quick conversation with, with Chef John or with Kelly, our food and beverage manager, always kind of chatting with them. And, again, from a staffing standpoint, what's the weather like? Okay. Going to be crappy today. The day you were there, there was probably 2 additional servers that were scheduled, but were cut because they,
Right.
we weren't going to have the business. And so it's always kind of monitoring that and just kind of paying attention to everything. We've got the GPS screens on our carts, which makes for a real kind of easy and great way to be able to control and kind of see how things are going on the golf course without having to physically go out there all the time. Actual eyes and ears on the golf course are a good thing to have, and we do have that with our player assistants. But I can monitor the pace on the golf course. We have, it's a very walkable golf course. We have but we're 70% rider of to 30% walker. So
Right.
for the most part, you can kind of monitor pace, based on that, and that's something again that we and every other golf course are big on. So paying attention to that, and then oftentimes it's depending again on who's here, depending on what if it's a nice sunrise or if there's something crazy going on the golf course, or if there's a flock of turkeys walking across the range, I'm out and grab my phone, or if it's a nice sunrise in the morning, I put the drone up and go and capture some content. And there's really not much in terms of things that are scripted for the content that I put out there. It's everything's off the cuff. It's what's going on. It's a lot of single takes that it's kind of always better if I screw up and like I crashed the drone last week. I wish the camera was recording at the time that I crashed it, so you could actually see it crash. But I just clipped the top of a tree and then ended up having to go into the bush and get it, and then got like, I don't know. I don't think it was poison ivy. I don't know what the hell it was. It was itchy as hell for a day or two. But it's like things like that I'll go out and do. And so it's not like it's not a stressful job, as in in the sense of like, I'm not getting my hands out dirty. And our superintendent and his crew, they do an unreal job that there's no babysitting required, and not that I would babysit, but it's those guys are good. And our super's been here for I think 12 years, and so he's like got this place dialed in, knows everything. So there's really not a whole lot of concern over that. Once we get into conversations about aeration and different things, what needs to happen with the golf course, or there's certain holes that we need to do something on, we'll have those conversations. So it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of conversations with both internally and externally with customers. But yeah, and then it's usually a mid to late afternoon departure, and then it doesn't stop there. It's my phone's always buzzing for social stuff and people sending messages and commenting, and I like to be on top of things and don't,
Of course.
so I don't turn it off. My wife, she's good. She's just gotten used to it. It kind of is. She just knows it is what it is. But I like to deal with things as they come in, whether those are emails of somebody asking for, information about this or that, or the, or the other thing. I'll respond to that right away. I'll deal with all that. And then usually it's like an 8:30 phone call from my old man about, something that's gone on that the backshop kids were or weren't doing, or this is happening tomorrow or whatever. And so it's kind of a 24/7 on type role, and it comes with the territory. Obviously, I've got a vested interest in the place being a family owned and operated, and it's I think my passion shows through in kind of all the stuff that I do, and that's one thing that I've tried to push on. Not push on. I don't want to push on, push passion to anyone, but create that excitement for our staff and for our team. And leaving our golf course for 7 years was probably the best thing that I did. Coming back, this is now my second season back, in terms of just kind of how my management style and how I deal with things and how I get people excited about things, and at the end of the day, leading by example. And the one thing that I was taught, as a young kid, and I've said this a million times to people that have worked for me, no matter where I've been, what I've been doing, is if you're too little for the big jobs, then you're too big for if you're too big for the little jobs, then you're too little for the big jobs.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what you do, what your title is, what your role is. If something needs to be done, roll up your sleeves, go and do it. Get your hands dirty. And that's that couldn't have played out more truer than kind of starting out the last couple of years with.
Oh, for sure. Like that's one of the things I was thinking of was like you have something pretty unique. So when you step up or your tee time's approaching, like I heard Barry's voice on the radio saying, On the Screws Golf podcast is up next on the tee, and I thought that was a really cool feature for a course to have, just to kind of announce announce your tee time. Like we were over on the range hitting. It was just kind of a cool vibe for me and the guys. And then you were such a strong voice as well, kind of like a leading voice with the kind of let us play movement, right, throughout COVID, and trying to get people back on the course. And of course it's your business, and excuse me, of course it's your business, and you're trying to do what you can to increase your numbers and whatnot. But it wasn't just about your course. Like you were explaining actual like theory and the idea of how many square footage or like how many acres the typical golf course has, and how this is safe, and how we can get back out playing. So I know a couple of your posts went viral too, which was pretty cool to see. There were a lot of people down in the States saying like, what is happening in Ontario, Canada right now, and why can you guys not golf? So I appreciate you being such a strong advocate for us there, and being able to articulate that so properly, because it was such a, I don't know the best wording, but it was such a unique time in history, not just for golf, but it was such a difficult time for people to understand why we couldn't go out and exercise, right? So
for sure,
you kind of mentioned it there a little bit, getting into, like, I had looked back on your social media a little bit. You used to work in sports management, like you said. We're connected with RBC. You had a really cool post in 2018, the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, a partnership with DJ. You kind of mentioned a few other things. Can you talk about some of your past while you were away from the course? It was for 7 years you were away from Copetown?
Yeah, so the I guess kind of one step backwards. So we were here at the working at the golf course back in 2010, 2009. I was asked by a neighbor to help her out with a little kind of community campaign called Craft Hockeyville, which is well known now, and was well known then too. Long story short, I ended up kind of helping her and kind of taking that over and running the campaign just as a volunteer, and ended up out of 750 towns in Canada that entered, Dundas, Ontario won Craft Hockeyville 2010. So we hosted the Sabres and Senators in our little 979 seat arena in Dundas. Amazing. And that process of that community engagement and events and all these different things that allowed me to create that excitement, when I thought it was so much work that I had done over the winter, to be able to win that, when Gary Bettman announced us on live on Hockey Night in Canada, after everything is done, everybody's kind of like deep breath, and we're like, holy Christ, okay, this is crazy. This is super cool. We're going to have, an NHL game here. And the guys from the NHL were sitting having a beer, and they said, okay, so what are you doing on Monday? And I was like, golf course is open. It's like beautiful weekend, Easter weekend in April 2010. And he said, well, we're going to come in on Monday to start planning and everything. So at that point, working that way, all the way through, there was an agency there that, that was kind of stick handling everything, pun intended. And I was like, what is this? Like that you guys, like, this is your job? Like you just like work with the NHL and craft and the NHLPA and all, like, this is, so anyway, going through that process kind of made me like the adrenaline that I had from running those events and from being part of all of that. It was just like, it was addictive. And so I knew people that were in the, in the sponsorship industry and ended up having some conversations and didn't need to leave Copetown Woods, but I kind of had that in the back of my mind. I'm like, God, like I want to try something like that. And so I had the conversation with my dad and I said, would always be my plan to come back at some point, but I think this is, this could be a really good thing for me and hopefully eventually a good thing for, for the business. And so 2013 through 19, I was at Wasserman Sports and Entertainment. So Wasserman's a global sports marketing agency, one of the biggest and certainly one of the top. So I did everything. I started as managing Shaw Communications portfolio, who had never really done anything in sponsorship before. They became a premier partner of the Canadian Open. They became a title sponsor of a Champions Tour event out in Calgary. Got into some athlete endorsements with Graham Dillette, Adam Hadwin, David Hearn. So I managed all of those relationships. And then that kind of led me into, they did quite a significant CFL partnership, managed all of that for them, managed the Manulife LPGA partnership for a year. And then the last 4 years that I was at Wasserman, I was a director and kind of oversaw RBC's golf sponsorship portfolio. So anything to do from, obviously Canadian Open and the RBC Heritage title sponsorships with the tour and everything that goes along with those. So all of the hospitality, all of the ticketing, all of the on-site branding, conversations with CBS and to ensure the broadcast branding is there, all of the player relationships. So dealing with, anything Team RBC, we would create and this still goes on, my former colleagues are still doing this, that, it's coming up with the recommendations of, okay, here are the players that we should look at. Here's, having the conversations with the agents and, getting the price and the numbers of what we can get out of them. And then carrying that through to, like you said, the post that I had made back in 2018 with DJ out at Pebble Beach. So Dave Mackay, the CEO of RBC, he was playing in the Pro-Am. So we essentially made the launch of that of the relationship at Pebble Beach. So myself and my client from RBC, we were out there and we basically just had a boardroom at the Inn at Spyglass and brought that was the first time I met DJ and introduced him to Dave Mackay and introduced him to Dave and then from there was able to create a pretty good relationship with DJ, which actually carried on through my, past my time at Wasserman, which is a funny story. So May of last year, we had not quite been able to open the golf course yet because of COVID. I think it was May 17th we opened. So it was like early May. The very first tour event after COVID was the RBC Heritage. No agents were allowed. Nobody else, was just players. So I'm sitting at home. It was like 7:30 and my phone rings and I'm like, what the hell? Like, hello? He's like, hey, Barry, it's Dustin. I'm like, hey, DJ, how you doing, man? He's like, I'm good. He's like, hey, so are you going to come like meet me at the hotel and like walk over to the clubhouse to do this thing? And so as opposed to in-person meet and greets and VIP hospitality, it turned into Zoom and, digital and virtual meet and greets with, all RBC's high net worth clients. And so my, the guys that were, working for me and the guy that took over, the portfolio when I left, they had provided everything, like all of the, the information of who to call, what to do, when, everything was there for them, but it was probably just I'll just call Barry and find out. Yeah. So I'm like, excuse me. Is that actually,
I've never met DJ, but that sounds like a DJ type of thing to do. Just be like, okay, I don't want to go through all of these steps and stuff. I'm just going to call this guy, figure out what we're doing. Right. So
yeah, just exactly. What's the easy way out? But, and not easy way out in a negative sense, but he, so I said, I'm I'm actually, not there anymore at Wasserman. I'm running the family golf course. And he's like, oh, sorry, man. And so anyway, so that was a pretty funny thing to to have happen. DJ, by the way, out of all of the players outside of the Canadians, because all those guys were always really, really good and great to deal with, DJ was probably the best and easiest player to deal with. Him and his agent acted like, I dealt with players, not all Team RBC, but we would have other players that we would contract to come into a certain event or come and do appearances at a golf outing or something like that were like 600th ranked in the world.
Yeah.
And their agent and the player would act like they're number one and that they can't do this and they can't do that. DJ and his agent David Winkle, unbelievable, the easiest guys to deal with. Never, there was a lot of, we would just call them clock watchers, that if it was a 2-hour appearance or or whatever the timing was on it, it was supposed to be done at noon or done at 6, at 5:55, the players looking at this, and right. Some of these guys have their agents hover and kind of wait. DJ's agent, he would never come to the events because he's like, you guys got it, like DJ's good, he's comfortable with you guys. So, and DJ would never leave before coming and always asking, is there anybody else you want me to meet? And like, wow. Which is unbelievable for a guy like that, as good as he is. And it's really, really good guy to deal with. So, but yeah, so anyway, so yeah, all of that to, I managed 4 Canadian Opens and Heritage, RBC Heritage for RBC, and again, all the hospitality and everything at those events, and partnerships with Golf Canada and the PGA of Canada. And then it could kind of run its course. And we were working downtown Toronto, and I'm commuting in from Dundas. So I'm a solid hour and a half each way, at very best every day. And it kind of run its course. And, there wasn't a whole lot of new crazy things going on and happening. And I like new, I like to change things up. I like to, kind of have, be able to be creative. And, so it was at that point that I kind of bowed out from Wasserman and made my return back to Copetown Woods. And again, my dad would say the same thing. Best thing that could have happened for our business was me going there. And not only obviously it opened up my network, and, but I traveled and, we ran 30 events at some of the best golf courses in North America. We'd be in West Palm or Palm Springs or all over Canada, New York City, wherever. So anytime, even though I wasn't working at the golf course, I would go into those golf courses with kind of that golf course owner, manager, operator hat on as well, and kind of looking at things of like, okay, that's a good idea. And there was multiple times where I would pick up the phone or take a picture and send it to my dad, or call him and be like, hey, like, this golf course is doing this or this. And it's like just cool, unique, different ideas that, oftentimes they could be the nicest golf courses, but it doesn't cost any money. Or sometimes you go into some of the nicest golf courses and you just kind of look around and be like, what in the hell are they thinking? Like it kind of was, went a little bit both ways, but it was always that. So always kind of just,
well, being able to go to all those different courses and kind of take pieces to kind of bring back to Copetown, right? And it's a memory for you each day too, but it's kind of things that me as the golfer at the course would be able to experience, like little pieces from, your journey or your 4 years at the different company at Wasserman, right? So like I even mentioned like the little thing, like simply just kind of announcing the tee times and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I know you guys obviously spent a few extra dollars on the carts to make the, you probably saw those at a course. I know they came from Augusta, I believe, right? So just things like that me as the golfer attending your course, we appreciate, right? We appreciate all those little things. And so yeah, I get how that could be sort of, a cool experience to take a little bit from each adventure along the way. Do you have anything that sticks out in your mind other than that call from DJ when you're no longer working there saying, what am I doing tomorrow, whatever it may be? But do you have anything that kind of sticks out in your mind as like that was a really cool experience, or your favorite experience from that part of the journey?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've ever been asked that, actually. I would, you know what? I wouldn't say there's any kind of one specific one. I think there's just, we ran a lot of real cool events, and we were given a fair amount of, leash, I guess you could say, to be able to kind of come up with, with ideas, and seeing how open, RBC is, and their, their leadership team, and I mean, Mary DePauli is a huge advocate for golf in Canada, and she's been great in kind of keeping everything going. And so I think it's great to see a company like that invest what they do, and not just in the professional game. You know, they're getting down into the kind of the grassroots, and they're doing stuff with the Team Canada, you know, junior and amateur squad, and the PGA of Canada to kind of get that excitement, and they were doing this before COVID, and so, but they continue to do so, and it'll be great to get the Open back going next year at St. George's for them, and I can't wait to go and see if I can snake some tickets from them to just go and be somebody that doesn't have to worry about walking by the buffet and making sure the golf course staff is making sure they top it up. But I think overall it was great, and that said, kind of that kind of journey, and then coming back here, the one thing I learned how to present, I learned how to write, I learned how to create presentation decks. I started my first day in 2013, I was asked to create a presentation deck, and I was like, what the hell is it? Like, I'd ask him, like, what's a presentation deck? Like, what? I had no idea what it was. Well, that turned into, anytime we would come up with a concept or a new idea, we'd put a 20-page presentation deck together that would kind of, build it up, lead into it, explain what it was, what are the benefits, what's the ROI on it, all these different things. And then sometimes that would go up the ladder and come back down, and it was a completely different idea. And that's where a wise man once told me, a camel is a horse built by committee. The nice thing now coming back here is that if I think of a good idea now, I'm just going to go and do it.
Yeah.
And so there's no camels here, because if the one person that I may need to bounce an idea off of is my dad. And so if it's going to cost a significant, amount of money, obviously that's something that we have a conversation about. But in terms of some of the different things we're doing, concepts we're doing, last week when we were doing aeration, we kept 9 holes closed each day, and it was, 9 holes, $25, including cart, super cheap, because otherwise people aren't going to come out and play anyway. And then just to make it fun, we're only going to play off the very front tees. We're going to tuck each pin to make it super hard, just for no other reason than just for the hell of it, just for fun. And we're almost sold out, which on a day that we would have, probably not have anybody play. And so things like that, I can just kind of take and run with, and which is nice.
It's funny. I'm watching The Office for like the 1,000th time, right? Probably the biggest Office fan ever. And yesterday there's a new boss, Charles Miner. I'm in the episode where he says to Jim, "Oh, can you give me a rundown on that? Like whatever it is that he's working on, right? Can you give me a rundown?" And Jim's thinking like, what the hell's a rundown? He didn't know. So it kind of reminded me of the story you're just telling me. But
presentation deck, no idea.
Exactly. Yeah. Presentation deck, rundown. Nobody knows what they are. But I asked you that question because I saw you in a golf cart with a photo of you in a golf cart with Father Hockey, Walter Gretzky, and his son.
That might have been the best one, actually.
Yeah. So it made me think, like, it's not so much that I guess you're in there with the greatest hockey player of all time, right? And Walter Gretzky. So I figured, unfortunately he's passed now, but those are two absolute icons in just Canadian sports. So I kind of thought that might be an experience that you'll never forget, obviously, right? So can you? Well, do we still have a few minutes of your time?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a good one. So that was at the 19 Open at Hamilton. So obviously Walter living in Brantford, DJ coming into play. DJ's agent called and said that there's a good chance that Wayne and Janet were going to come in, and they were going to bring Walter with them.
Nice.
I said, okay, that's great. And so he's like, can you get them in the gates? Like, can you get them to be able to park up close? Because Walter can't walk. And I said, yeah, no problem. And, we obviously were tight with the, head of security to be able to make sure that we could, give them the green light to get in. And I guess it was the second day that Walter came, but the first day, Wayne and Janet, they came in. And so it was a conversation before they got there with the head of security and the head of the head sergeant of the Hamilton Police at the time, who was kind of managing everything on the ground. And so I said, okay, like, Wayne's coming. So I don't know what he's going to want to do. I don't know if he's going to want to go on the golf course or if he's going to just kind of hang in the clubhouse. So just FYI, I'll let you know when he comes. So I get the call that he's at the gate. He comes in. So met him and Janet and I think, I don't know if it was his son Ty or Trevor, which one, I'm not sure which one was that was there. So we're just chatting, and I said, okay, so what's the plan? Is it a, he's hanging in the clubhouse? Wayne's like, no, like, like we want to go out and walk. And, DJ likes it when we're out there walking with him, supporting him. And, which just sounds funny that, that DJ is looking for Wayne in the crowd to, make sure father-in-law is watching out there. But I said, okay, like, police, sergeant and head of security, they're a little concerned. You're in Hamilton, you're Wayne Gretzky. And he's like, honestly, Barry, like, I'm fine. Like, if somebody wants a picture, if they want an autograph, whatever, like, I'm cool with it. There's no problem at all. So I tell this to the head sergeant. He's like, oh, for God's sakes. Like, so he basically had somebody like in a golf cart 30 yards behind them at all times, just kind of staying out of the way and just to be safe. But and it was funny because those 2 days that, the next day they came back and they brought Walter. Walter had never seen DJ play golf before. He'd never seen him hit a golf ball. So we got, through tour staff and tour security, we were able to have Walter come down. We've got a chair for him set up on the range to be able to come and watch him hit balls on the range. And then about 10 minutes before his tee time, they allowed him to go up and sit at the back of the first tee. Nice. To be able to watch him hit a tee shot. And so that was kind of where the picture came from. So I was pushed this on all my staff at Wasserman too. We're going to meet a lot of cool people. There's a lot of people that you can say that you're going to meet, that you're going to talk to, that, your friends might be like, oh, that's super cool. Like, obviously, like a guy like DJ is one. But don't ever take a picture with them. They are with you. They're with us. They're trusting us as they're away from the autograph hounds. They're away from the people that want to take their picture and post on social media. Just, they're normal people, and they all are. They are the most normal people that, just like you and I, we would literally have the same conversation with them. So don't take your picture with them. Don't ask for an autograph. Just act like you've been there before. So I'd always do that. Wayne was a different story for me because I'd never met Wayne before, and I don't get starstruck. And I wasn't really starstruck with him, but I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. So I have a golf cart. So I've got Janet sitting on the front seat beside me, and I've got Wayne and Walter on the back of the golf cart. So I said to one of my staff, I'm like, go over to the other side of the ropes and get a picture of me driving. Like, I want this picture of me driving Wayne and Walter. And so drove Walter up. And then I stood there and we waited for DJ's tee time. And I chatted with Wayne for probably 10 minutes, just shooting the shit about my boys' hockey. They were playing minor hockey in Dundas, and one of my boys had a real good team and won some OMHA championships. He's not Wayne Gretzky or anything close, and isn't going to make a career of playing hockey, but it was kind of cool. And then he started talking to me. He's like, oh yeah, like the rink in Dundas, or, I love playing there and this and that. And then we started talking about, like, it was like names that he brought up of people that I knew. And it was just a cool experience for me that, I'm glad you reminded me, because that was definitely one of the top ones that had nothing to do with any golfers or anything.
I've asked that question a few times to people, like, what would be the highlight? And it seems recently a lot of people are kind of, almost every week somebody mentions Arnold Palmer and having a conversation with him or connecting with him and just being able to have a conversation, like you said, right? So we're Canadians, obviously. Wayne Gretzky is a household name anywhere in the world, and the greatest player to ever play a game. And it's not our national sport, which a lot of people think, but it is kind of our adopted sport, and it's unbelievable. Like, it would be such a great, I don't know, just feeling to be able to connect, and if you get a picture of it, that's great, because I don't know, Wayne Gretzky is one of those people that it would be hard to not be starstruck hanging out with him.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually have another cool pic of a that I didn't know anybody was taking. I think it was just the actual photographer we had on site at an event that we were running during Canadian Open Week at Mississauga. We would always run kind of simultaneous events at Mississauga Golf Club and Glen Abbey or Greystone for the different lines of business for RBC, where we'd have 7 or 8 tour players at each of the golf courses during event week. And so I think that one, there was like DJ, and I know Finau was there, and potentially Koepka, and a few of the Team RBC guys. And it was after we did a breakfast with them, and then they were just about to go out and play. They were going to take some pictures with people. And so there's me, like, literally, like, directing traffic, like calling out marching orders, and the first person in line was Jack Nicklaus, which was kind of a cool picture to,
For sure.
it was like, Jack, this is my show. You listen to goddamn well. I'm the boss here. You listen. No, I didn't say that, but it kind of looked like I was saying that to him in the picture, and he was like, not paying any attention to me. So he's like, "Who is this donkey?"
You're gonna have to send me that photo. Anybody watching over on YouTube, I'll try and pop it up if I can get it.
I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I kind of thought like back at the Ryder Cup, like Michael Jordan was there, and so many people were like trying to connect with him. There's very few polarizing people on the planet, and like for me, obviously like MJ, Jack, Tiger, Arnold Palmer, like Wayne Gretzky would be one of them. Like it would just be sort of one of those, I don't know how to have a conversation with this person. And again, like I don't get overly starstruck, like you said. Like I'm comfortable. I understand they're human beings and they want their time, and I'm, that's great that they probably really respect you for being able to like kind of give them their space in those moments. But that'd be tough, Barry. That'd be tough.
Yeah.
So good for you. And giving marching orders to Jack is pretty amazing. To kind of roll off that, I always love asking this question. I usually give a heads up, but I know that you're a pretty impromptu guy. You'll be okay with this one. If you're gonna go out and play a round of golf, dream foursome, who would the others be with you? It could be celebrities, family, could be golfers, anybody. Who would those other three be?
That is a real good question. I would say I'm going to go a little bit off the board with this and go one family member who is kind of a bit of a different one, but just kind of in the current kind of state where we are right now. So I've got a nephew, my sister's middle son, who has turned into a bit of a stud player. So his name's Pearson Hunt. So Pearson's right now in his sophomore year at Illinois, just won the Islesworth Collegiate Invitational, his first NCAA win, and he's a big Canadian lefty that I think you'll hear his name probably sooner than later, which is very cool. And they don't get up here very often. Obviously, his golf schedule has always been pretty full, and I think maybe 2 years ago they came up, and I played with him, and I think he shot par on a pretty kind of mundane round, but he didn't do anything wrong, and just but hits the ball a ton. At the time, I think he was probably 17 at the time. He's just a kid still.
Funny you mentioned him, because I was going to ask you about him, so we can we'll keep him as one of them. But anybody who kind of wanted to check him out, I've started following him, followed a little bit of his playing career now. Pearson Hunt, your nephew, and he won the 120th Wisconsin State Amateur Championship by 6 shots. So he's definitely the best amateur in Wisconsin. Rounds of 68, 72, 70, 69. So those are not just good rounds, but very, very, like, there's at that age, obviously you're going to have some days where it may not go as well, but to have that type of consistency through a week is pretty amazing. So I would,
and playing against grown men too. Not playing, it's not a junior event anymore, right? He's 19 and he's going out and he's doing that. And he actually the Wisconsin State Open, he actually, I think he may have tripled or quadrupled a hole on the back nine this year. Otherwise probably would have won the Wisconsin State Open along with the Wisconsin State Amateur in the same year, which I don't know that it had ever happened before. I mean, Wisconsin doesn't, like, when you first say it, doesn't sound like a big golf, right. It's not like Florida or Carolinas or whatever, but I mean, you start thinking of what Wisconsin golf is all about now. And there's a ton of golfers in Wisconsin, and obviously you've got Whistling Straits and Erin Hills, and now you've got, Mammoth Dunes and, Sand Valley. So it's pretty big, pretty big golfing state for sure.
Winning by 6 strokes is a significant amount too. Like, it's not like you're kind of, that's a big margin over even 4 days, right? Think about, last time somebody won by 6 strokes, like, I don't know, Patrick Reed won by 6 strokes earlier last year. But it's like, you don't hear that much. Like, when you talk about golf events and on tour, there's, from the top to the bottom, it's so close. Like, these players are all so good. They're all so close. So to not just win, but dominate by 6 strokes. So I would definitely come. I'll come carry the bag or drive the cart or whatever it is, and I'll come check it out, because I would love to see him play. But so we got your nephew.
Got my nephew, and then I think I'd be remiss to say Tiger, just because
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you want to?
Yeah.
And then who would I throw in there as the fourth? I'd probably
Tigers every week. Like, there's only been a couple people who haven't mentioned Tiger. I probably asked this question to 30 or 40 people now. I think this is episode 48 or 49. We're coming up on a year now, and this is I would say Tiger is probably 45 of them, right? So
yeah, for sure. And it's just an easy one. And God, I've never been asked this question before. I've heard it asked a million times to everybody else, but I've never been asked it before. So I'm gonna go again off the wall here, a little bit off track. And because I don't really care if people do it here, I'm going against your own rules, and I'm making a fivesome. Okay. And I'm bringing both of my boys, who are now Declan and Oliver, who are now 15 and 13. But take the two of them, and but don't worry, we'll keep up with the group in front, so you don't need to worry about our pace.
Well, there's so many people that have gotten to the point where it's like, oh, I can't decide between these two, and they're like, okay, I'll just carry the bag, I'll just caddy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I would be happy to do so as well, or even just kind of come manage the course a little bit. But that's pretty cool. That would be, I'm sure for your sons and your nephew, like being able to golf with Tiger would be, I don't know, that'd be crazy. I would forfeit that to my son any day. But it'd be pretty amazing. Barry, I really appreciate it. I know, like you said, I don't know if you're having a nice day out there. We're a little ways away. It's a little rainy here right now, but I appreciate you taking all this time, kind of giving us an idea of what it's like to run a course, and kind of just be in the business of golf, and what your day-to-day would be like, and also kind of all the different experience at the course. I love what you guys are doing. I love the social media aspect. You and I connect a lot through there. I like the drone work. I like kind of being able to see all the updates and whatnot. It's very cool. So thanks for taking so much time. I know I probably took a little bit too much this morning, but if anybody's looking to get a hold of you, ask any questions about the course, want any details, can you kind of share how we can get a hold of you on social medias? And would you mind, just before we wrap up, giving the rates one more time?
Yeah, so our green fee rates for the 2021 season, which I don't really anticipate being much different. We haven't had that conversation yet for 2022, but our highest price green fee is $59 Monday to Friday, $69 on weekends. We do a before 9 and after 3 during the week. That's only $47. So it's a bit of a steal.
You will be extremely hard pressed to find a better bang for your buck than those rates. So I appreciate you sharing those. That's great.
Yeah, and then to get a hold of me, I mean through socials is a real easy way. I manage all of our social platforms, so anything on whether it's Twitter or Instagram or Facebook at Copetown Woods, that's the easiest way for sure. And anybody that's in the business that wants to connect to chat about one thing or another, as you can probably tell, I'm a bit of an open book, and we're not hiding anything. And there's definitely I've got a few things in my back pocket that I like to kind of keep, and I like to be the first out of the gate with a lot of things, but after that it's like free for all. And if I see somebody's good idea, there's 100% I'm stealing it, because it's just a form of flattery. I'm not trying to be a bad guy, but if even connect with me on LinkedIn, kind of more from a personal standpoint, happy to be able to connect through that as well.
Well, I think it's safe to say you guys were the first ones to do the pop-up picnics on course when we weren't allowed to play. I don't know if I saw that idea anywhere else, but that was really cool, just being able to come out with my wife. We walked 9 holes. She was, 6-7 months pregnant at the time, so we didn't get through the full 18, but to even just be able to kind of sit and have lunch was it was a really cool pivot. It was a really nice move to make to kind of get people out and check out the course, and then get us wanting to come back too, right? So appreciate all you're doing for the game, Barry. Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to getting back out there and seeing you again. And all the best. Enjoy the rest of the season, and then hopefully I can see you before it's over.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Is out in my ball and of course where I tee up. I lose a ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach, and I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross.